Blacks in Technology.
Blacks in Technology. Blacks in Technology. Blacks in Technology. Blacks in Technology. Blacks in Technology.
Good evening, all my fellow techies out there. Welcome to the Blacks in Technology Big Tech Talk podcast. This is episode number 78. I'm your host, Greg-greenlee. And if this is your first time checking out this podcast, you can find Blacks in Technology at the following URLs. We're at www.blacksintechnology.net. We're also on the Twitters, and that's at Black in Technology. That's BLKINTECHNOLOGY. We're also on Facebook. You can find us there, facebook.com/Blacks in Technology. We also have an ever-growing LinkedIn group under Blacks in Technology. And if you're on the Twitter right now, and if you have questions for our guests, just tweet them using the hashtag BigTechTalk, and that's BITTECHTALK. Blacks in Technology is a tech-focused community and media organization focused on increasing diversity in technology. We're always focused on forming new partnerships and opportunities to assist our members with their continued professional growth and development. So if you want to partner with us, send us an email to partnerships@blacksintechnology.net. Any general inquiries, send us an email to contact us at blacksintechnology.net. And if you want to sponsor one of these podcasts and get your company or organization, or you have an announcement you would like us to make, send us an email to sponsorship@blacksintechnology.net. A few announcements I want to get into before I actually introduce our guests. Black Founders. Black Founders close. I would say they're really close to Blacks in Technology. They're pretty much family to us. And they have announced their newest program, Founders and Mentors, a one-on-one mentor program for startup entrepreneurs. A select number of high-potential entrepreneurs will be paired with experienced entrepreneur mentors. You'll meet at least once a month, get the advice you need to move your business forward. This program is open to entrepreneurs all over the world, with sessions available in person, via Skype, and Google Hangout. Applications are due by July 24th. The URL for that, if you want to apply, go to mentors.blackfounders.com/entrepreneur-mentors. So let me repeat that again. That's mentors.blackfounders.com/entrepreneur-mentors. I'll put that in the show notes as well. So if you don't get that now, you can check out the show notes later, and you'll have the URL. Also, DevOps Day Chicago. We mentioned this in the podcast before. DevOps Day Chicago is going to be going on August 25th and 26th. If you're into DevOps and you want to attend DevOps Day Chicago, shoot us an email. We've got some free tickets for that. So if you're in the Chicago area, or if you plan on being in the Chicago area around August 25th and 26th, and want to attend DevOps Day Chicago, shoot us an email to contact us at blacksintechnology.net, and we will have a ticket waiting for you. DevOps Day Chicago is a 2-day community-driven technical conference that focuses on bridging the gap between development and operations. So this year, the conference is taking place at the University of Chicago Gleacher Center. Members of the Blacks in Technology community can use the promo code BIT25 to receive a 25% discount on registration. To learn more about the event or to submit a proposal, I think proposals are actually over. But if not, if you want to submit a proposal to present at the conference, or if you want to register, go to DevOpsDaysShy.org. That's DevOpsDaysShy.org. PuppetConf 2015 is going on. It's going down on October 5th through the 9th in Portland, Oregon this year. Last year was in San Francisco. We worked with Puppet Labs to bring some members of the Blacks in Technology community to PuppetConf. Hopefully this year we'll continue our partnership. Registration is open, and if you register now before actually yesterday, so it's over with. You could have gotten 35% off admission, but hopefully we'll be partnering with them, and we'll have some special codes available for members of the BIT community. Sessions will range from how to get started with Puppet, modules and related technologies, to advanced tips and tricks for using Puppet, PuppetDB, Razor Factor, and more. So that's going down October 5th through the 9th in Portland, Oregon. So check out what's PuppetConf 2015.puppetconf.com. That's 2015.puppetconf.com. Okay, so we're going to get into our guest. So I want to introduce you to Brandon-Terrell. He's known to his colleagues and friends as BT. He's been trailblazing the path within the startup community for over the past 7 months. And he's an entrepreneur. He's a CEO and founder of a couple of companies. We're going to get into all that. We're going to talk about a couple of his companies and what he's been doing. He's also, he studied entrepreneur at Stanford University, Y Combinator, and also Charlotte-based accelerator City Startup Labs. So, Brandon, I want to welcome you to the show, and thanks for coming on.
Good evening, Greg. Hey, thanks for having me, man. It's a pleasure to be a part of this. And before we get started, I wanted to thank you and commend you for a job well done, highlighting people of color in the technology space. It's truly a humbling experience for me, to be a part of this. So, hey, thanks again, man.
You're definitely welcome. I definitely appreciate you saying that. Like I always say, whatever I can do to try to move the needle and progress what our causes are and what we stand for, man, I'm more than happy to do it. So it's a pleasure to have you on. So as we get started, give us some information about your background, your educational background, and tell us how you got into tech.
Sure. Well, I'm a native of Montgomery, Alabama, a place kind of far off most people's radar. I'm sure, we've all heard of it for the civil rights movement, a place with a lot of history. However, Alabama hasn't historically been a place for a lot of innovation. So my interest in tech started when I was fortunate enough to attend one of the nation's first technical high schools, which was Brandon-Technologies. However, at the time, being young and, wanting to hang out with friends and be in the sports, I, wanted to go back to public school. So, I really felt like that experience that I had at Brewtech, really put me in a position to where I started to understand coding and develop some interest. And from there, after finishing high school, I went to Alabama A&M University. So shout out to all the Bulldogs. I finished there with a degree in marketing. So, being in a position where you're in school, you're kind of like what job opportunities would be available. Post-college, my mindset was just focused corporate America. My father was a big-time marketing executive with Anheuser-Busch. So that lifestyle was extremely appealing to me. I wanted to do the corporate events and to travel and to, be in this environment where you had this great culture. But coming from a HBCU and, being honest, I was a mediocre student. Those high-level opportunities just, weren't available. So, I had to settle for, what came. And that pretty much led me to, that corporate route, which I did for the past 5-6 years.
Got you. So how did you transition from the corporate life? Because we always hear stories about people working in the corporate life and then it being or it's giving the appearance of stability, even though we all know that at any time you can get fired just as quick as you got hired. But people, they view being in the corporate world as a more stable environment than it is, going out on your own, being an entrepreneur. How did you actually get into or enter the startup world?
Well, good question. The thing about corporate America, it really just depends on what type of person you want to be and what life you want to live. Don't get me wrong, I do miss that stability of the constant paycheck and, the benefits and, having the ability to, work in an environment with other like minds. But at the end of the day, I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I always saw myself owning a business and, I didn't forcefully leave corporate America. I didn't plan my exit that way. I was somewhat forced out, obviously underperforming, put me in a position where I was separated. So I like to call it being pushed into my purpose. All I knew in school was to get a job, to make money, to potentially leave that job and, potentially risk opening up a business. Nobody in my family was an entrepreneur. The sad thing about, how I was raised and a lot of people in our culture is that, we're taught to hit that single, get that first base hit. And for a lot of people, that's just graduating high school. Looking back, it was so many people that I went to school with that were so happy to be graduating high school. Like that was the milestone and that was the end zone. That was pretty much the finish line for them and didn't really have any plan. But, all I knew was college. My family is a long line of educators. And other cultures, if you look at it, they're taught to swing for the fence, to go for a home run. And that's a big difference between what I feel like is the mentality for most people about corporate America. So it wasn't until I lost my job that I realized that as long as I'm in this position, I'm going to always be at somebody's will. And, as long as you're at somebody's will, you're going to be dominated. You're going to pretty much be controlled. And I know it's very cliche, but, it wasn't until that moment that I realized that unless I create, I'm going to continue to be controlled, and I have to try to figure out my own destiny or else I'm going to be stuck in this, lull of just going job to job or maybe working until I retire. And, there's really no joy in that.
Right. So was that immediate after you moved on from corporate America? Was that an immediate reaction, or did that take some time? Did you go through a period where you were like, oh man, like I can't believe, I don't have this job anymore. What am I going to do next? Or was it an immediate thing? Was it like, you know what, this is my calling. This is the sign I was waiting for. This is telling me that I need to be doing something different. How did that work out?
Well, it was, really my thing was I knew it was coming. I forecasted, I had all opportunity to pretty much change the way that, I was going about doing my job. So I made preparation. It wasn't, just something that happened all of a sudden. I did put away some money. I was looking for other opportunities, but at the same time, I was planting that seed for, if the opportunity came for me to break out and do my own thing, I would be ready. So for a long time, I looked for other jobs. I looked for other opportunities. But the more I continued to, put in applications and go on interviews, it became very routine. It became very mundane. Like, hey, you're going to get into this new role. You're going to have to learn this new culture. You're going to work until, something else opens up. So, my story is very interesting. I still look for opportunities, to try to find something that might, give me some experience that might be valuable for myself as an entrepreneur. However, I always felt as if it came down to me not going back to work, would I be content with setting my mind on being an entrepreneur? And, I think within the past year, that I've been away from corporate America, I've really determined that this is an opportunity for me to plant my feet into entrepreneurship, just see where it goes. I think that's the whole point of having your back against the wall. If you have options, you're going to pursue one or the other. But when you have no other way, innovation is pretty much spawned from chaos. So, I was at a point where I'm like, man, I don't know what's next. So, that forced me to innovate, which, led me to where I am now, which is a good space. Even though it's been a struggle, I really feel like, I'm one or two, key milestones away from, being the next individual that you read about.
Right. And what's that saying about, I don't know exactly how it goes. It talks about, I know you said it's been a struggle, but those things that the most rewarding things are usually the hardest things to attain, right? So, that's how it is. That's how it is. So how did you? Go ahead.
Yeah, so speaking to that, a lot of the material I've been reading about successful founders, most of them have come from, those moments where they've experienced some sort of hardship or, transition, and that's forced them into, what they've been successful with. So, yeah, just to add something to the statement you made, I think that's completely accurate.
Right. So how did you become involved with the Stanford Use Y Combinator and the City Startup Labs Accelerator? How does that transpire?
Well, I've got some friends that are also in the startup space, and they were pursuing accelerators and positioning themselves to start their companies. And, I really felt like that was a great concept. And I know this might be a conversation for another time, but, it's at a point where you start seeing a lot of these startup founders not going through college and, supplementing that education for the accelerator process. And I heard about City Startup Labs, and I was out networking, and actually one of the individuals who was in the program with me recommended it. So City Startup Labs is actually an accelerator for African-American males between the age of 18 and 30. So that very unique and specific age range is the most incarcerated age range for African-American males in the country.
Oh,
so,
wow.
For us, that was a huge opportunity because, you're really on one side or the other. If you're not progressing and you're not, doing things that society sees as, what the standard is, most African-American males have this negative connotation. And, it's very tough that society and what we're going through right now in the country has, placed that over us. But this program was put in place to, caveat that. And, for me, I was at a point where, it was a blessing, to say the least. I was out networking and sharing my ideas with some young ladies. And one of the women who I was speaking with, her husband, is actually Henry Rock, who's the director of our program. So I met with him. Things progressed from there. I interviewed, and we started up the second batch of City Startup Labs in January. So I put together an LLC at the end of last year and didn't really have any direction, didn't really know what I wanted to do. And after, meeting with Mr. Rock and discussing the City Startup Labs program, he let me know that, hey, if I continue to bring these type of ideas to the table, that the curriculum could, really help me develop the business model and get a good understanding of where my company could go. So, just like any other lesson or any other education that you get, you always have to do your own research. You always have to challenge what you're being taught. So I had been doing a lot of research about startups and the information that we were receiving. So I had fully immersed myself in the startup community. And Charlotte has a growing startup scene. There are several events that happen weekly. So, I began to become very connected. And I noticed that a lot of the companies that were getting funded on TechCrunch were Y Combinator alumni. So while I was in City Startup Labs, I reached out. I actually found a group on Twitter. I was looking at some of the participants of the Y Combinator program, and I met up with this company called RightView, which was an ad tech startup out of the Valley area, or Mountain View, so to speak, the Bay Area. So they allowed me to attend the program remotely. So I actually joined on with them, doing some marketing work, some PR stuff, doing a lot of branding for them and their company. And I got access to the same material that they had from Y Combinator while I was in City Startup Labs, which, I really felt like gave me a huge competitive advantage, which ultimately helped me with the pitch presentation. I've been in 2 pitch competitions recently. And just having that access to those resources really opened up the doors to, the startup journey that I'm on now, which is, really starting to gain traction.
That's excellent. That's excellent to hear. And I think something that's real important that you touched on is the power of networking. I can't say, enough about networking. A lot of times, and this is why Blacks in Technology really we really try to focus on getting people to these tech conferences, right? Now I know there these tech conferences, at least some of the ones that we've been interested in are a lot more for engineers and the more technical people and things like that. But the networking that goes on in these spaces, it's what's more valuable than the actual knowledge that you gain there, because you'll meet people who are from some of these huge tech companies. So you'll meet people from Red Hat. You'll meet people from Google. I met a couple of people from Apple a few weeks ago. I met somebody from Google. And it's this networking piece that we really have to take advantage of, and that we really need to work on as a culture is really network, because who knows where the next conversation or will lead to. For you, it led to you being a participant in an accelerator. For others, it could lead to a job. So I think it's very important. I think that's, I'm glad that you touched on that. That's pretty much how you got involved, is you were actually just out networking and speaking to people, and that's how it happened. So excellent. So you mentioned that you were part of recently. You were part of 2 business pitch competitions. What were those competitions about? And what were some of the valuable things you took away from those competitions you can kind of share with our audience?
Well, City Startup Labs had a pitch competition to conclude the accelerator. So we started with 22. And I believe 8 companies pitched. So, that process was, a really amazing time for me. It gave us an opportunity to not only conclude the information that we had learned throughout the program, but it really gave us an opportunity to share our companies with not only investors, but the audience and individuals who may be able to use our technology, pilot customers. So it was a really good event. I think we had a really great turnout, and I got some excellent feedback. That was actually the first time I pitched. And after that, I've been noticing a lot of competitions, around the country. And Black Enterprise had one that they were running on social media that I put in a bid for. It got selected as a candidate to go up to Baltimore a couple weeks ago, 2-3 weeks ago, and had a pitch competition there that I also, came out a winner of. So, pitching to me is a really exciting moment. That adrenaline and, the nerve is really like the closest thing that I've experienced to being a rock star, like performing in front of a large crowd.
Right.
So, of course, some things that I would say were the biggest pieces to those victories was the story. If you know your business and you're passionate about what you're doing, then that passion should exude in the presentation. Right. The format that I've found successful is, just coming out immediately and stating a problem. Even if it's an elevator pitch, if it's, cold email pitch, or, you're doing a 5 to 7 minute pitch for investors, you should always state that problem and then come behind it with the solution. So for me, the solution typically informs the market size and, the business model, which allows you to expound on the underlying magic if you have any. And for me, both of my startups are tech-based, so, we always discuss the underlying magic. And that concept usually allows us to talk about what qualifies us to tackle that problem. As I mentioned earlier in the conversation, my background is marketing, so that's one thing that I feel like with any business I'm not going to have a problem doing is reaching new verticals because I'm so passionate about marketing. But it's very much about your team. The team is a big part. I know you spoke to networking, and for me, man, that's really been what my life has consisted of these, past 2 or 3 months, is going to events, meetups, whether I'm in Atlanta or, whether I'm in other startup communities. I'm not a tech guy per se, that's really not my strength, coding and developing, but, you've got people that's what they're educated to do. So they want to do that work. And, you have to be able to convey to them what your ideas are so that they can help. And, a lot of these developers are very instrumental in the startup process. So, I'm just extremely confident with my ability to, reach individuals, whether it's an audience or a judge. And I feel like that's a big difference maker for me. And also finding that balance in between, saying enough and not saying too much so that you create an opportunity for a follow-up conversation. I've seen people in pitch competitions kind of, run themselves into the ground, because if you don't have anything else to discuss with your business after that pitch, then investors aren't going to really have much to say. But if you have that, exact balance between, hey, I didn't quite say enough, but I didn't say too much, I really feel like that is where you open up the door to conversations. And, I love speaking to individuals after my pitch, setting up meetings. And, I honestly, Greg, feel like that's how I got to this point. People referred me to you, like, hey, reach out to this platform and, tell me a little bit more. Maybe you can reach a new vertical by, having these conversations. So, pitching is something that I'm always looking to do. And, if anybody is listening or, is seeking opportunities to, prepare for a pitch, that's definitely something that I'm becoming very comfortable with.
That's very, I like what you said there. I mean, because that last point that you hit on about not saying too much is, I've actually never heard that before. So, not that I'm like, this startup, guru or anything like that. But that's interesting that you say that, but it makes sense, right? You don't give too much. You leave enough to keep some people in suspense, right? So that they want to talk to you more about your idea, and then you can bring them in. So you already bring them in. You're already up there pitching. You bring them in some, right? They're already engaged a little bit, and you leave just enough for them to be able to say, oh, I want to hear more about this, right? And so they come to you afterwards, and you bring them in. That's when you really grab them and you bring them in and say, hey, this is what's up right here, and this is my passion, and this is this is the business, and that's how you kind of hook them in and reel them into the boat, so to speak. I think that's really interesting. That's some good advice that our audience can definitely use. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Go ahead.
No. I appreciate you pointing that out, man. And I'm glad I was able to share that.
Definitely. So you're the CEO, you're the founder of Nomadic Technologies, a big data company for out-of-home advertising. So explain to our listeners, what is out-of-home advertising, and what is it that your company does to help in that market?
Well, Nomadic Technologies, we were founded pretty much on the principle of bringing accountability and understanding to the world of out-of-home advertising. So my previous job that I worked before I was separated, dealt with some digital marketing and advertising. And, when we say out-of-home advertising, this is pretty much where you've got advertisements that happen outside of the typical spectrum. Normally you've got radio, you've got television, newspapers, and, magazines, etc. So statistically, and this is just research that, I've done and I've, been able to come across as I've, been working in the space, but consumers spend more than 70 hours per week outside of their own home. So if you look at being at work, if you do get a chance to hang out, if you've got a family and you're taking them places, you spend a lot of time out of home. So, one thing that advertisers have had to do is count on billboards and street signs, mobile ads, wrapped vehicles, also, transit signs, street furniture is another aspect there. Advertisers count on that for their products and to communicate, what they're trying to get into consumers. And that's a huge challenge. One thing that I've noticed, and the reason why I became so passionate about this endeavor was that, I worked in, marketing. We put together an out-of-home advertising campaign, put a lot of money into it, and was unable to get the type of return that, we were hoping for. For the average individual, they might not understand, what goes into advertising. And if you're behind the scene, you have to realize, what is it about this ad that's appealing enough to really get us a return on investment? So, with the advancement of technology and Internet of Things, we've discovered that beacons and connecting to mobile devices, which, if you look at how many people have smartphones, somewhat of 2 billion people, we've been able to capture data and send content directly to these devices. And that's pretty much helping close the loop on that purchasing cycle. And it's opened up a world of possibilities for consumer engagement. Because right now with the billboard, if you're driving down the interstate and you're going 70 miles an hour and, this advertising company is counting on consumers to see this ad, there's really no, data or, analysis of how many consumers are actually seeing these ads. And there's really no way to track that return on investment. So what Nomadic Technologies is doing is utilizing technology, Internet of Things, to help analyze, the data that we're capturing from consumers for these advertisers to let them know how many people are seeing their ad and potentially what type of return on investment they're getting from these advertisers.
Very, very interesting. So, help me kind of visualize this a little bit more. So, are these billboards? Are these signs that you see like on public transit? Are they giving out this? What's actually giving out this beacon that allows advertisers to kind of track these metrics?
Well, a specific use case would be one of my pilot customers. They're this company, Jaunt Charlotte. They're actually a karting service. So, Charlotte's got a pretty unique infrastructure where you can pretty much walk or, commute in what's called Uptown. It's probably like a 10-mile radius. So around where a lot of things happen, it's called the epicenter. So you've got a lot of businesses, nightclubs, bars, and, a lot of people work. You've got the banks here, so on and so forth. So what Jaunt does is they'll take these individuals within a 1 to 3 mile service area anywhere they want to go in these carts for free. Similar to Uber, so if you can imagine how Uber works. But the way Jaunt makes money, the way they generate revenue is by wrapping these carts with advertisements. So I've seen, other carts like this, on the beach or, other metropolitan areas. So these advertisers, they basically wrap these carts in order to appeal to these passengers, to consumers, to anybody who sees these carts, running up and down the street. So I had a conversation with John and said, hey, I'm actually looking to pilot some technology that can help your customers truly connect with these passengers and be able to track their return on investment. So initially, the team I was working with, the group of, technologists, they've discovered that if we could place the beacon in these carts, the advertisers, let's just say if, the Carolina Panthers, for instance, wanted to wrap these carts with their ad, football schedule, so on and so forth. Any passenger that got in and out of the cart, if they were to connect their device to this beacon by using Bluetooth technology, we could send content such as a schedule, such as a link to purchase season tickets, a discount coupon for concessions. We could send that type of data to these passengers. So with this advertisement, we're able to know that if we sent these files or data points to these passengers, let's say 10 people got season tickets, we could actually track and report to the football team or the advertiser how many people not only opened this link, but how many people made a purchase. And from there, we could actually commission that revenue that they make off those tickets, and that's how we make money. Now, on top of that, we could sell that data to the Panthers or, any other advertiser and say, well, you're able to track how many people were able to receive this ad, how many people opened it, and how many people made a purchase. Now, for them, they're like, well, if we know for a fact that everybody that we send this link to purchase tickets to is purchasing, then this is probably the most appealing way for us to advertise. Instead of taking out a billboard on the interstate where you may spend twice as much as it costs to advertise with this carding service, and you have no idea what your return on investment is. So essentially, it's just bringing accountability to advertising. It's allowing us to be able to provide data to these companies so that they know how these consumers are interacting, which is, very important to them.
Gotcha. So that makes sense now to me. That becomes a lot more clear. So what is it? What's the mechanism? I know that you mentioned Bluetooth as far as connecting to these the devices, but what is it that is enticing the consumer to actually connect to these to the advertising? So they hop on on one of these transports, right? And they're on their phone. What is it that you're doing to say, hey, connect to this device or this signal, and you'll get I don't know, something free or some promotional item or something like that. So how are you kind of allowing that to happen?
Well, that's where we've had to pivot the business model. Initially, we wanted to avoid having to have a mobile app where, you'd have to add that to your phone, because obviously the mobile app space is becoming quite crowded. And we didn't know, if consumers wanted to download an app in order to, receive discounts. Some were willing. We definitely validated the assumption by, speaking to a lot of customers. And, most of the individuals that we spoke with would be willing to adopt the technology in order, to receive savings and discounts. But essentially it's a marketing play, and obviously with that being my background, I'm very excited to, figure out ways to be able to reach new verticals with this platform. But where we pivoted with the business model is by not necessarily using the application route, because the technology does allow us to integrate with the existing apps, but not everybody who advertises with us or wants to, be a part of our technology is going to have an application that we can integrate to. So where we're actually moving forward with the technology is incorporating GPS. So with the GPS, by us having a platform that integrates directly into the device, it eliminates the need to have to connect to Bluetooth, which is a whole nother conversation because of the fact that Bluetooth requires some energy source, and that could potentially interfere with the ability to be able to capture the data. So we're moving into actually using GPS, which is a lot more efficient, and it's a lot more effective at being able to get that content to these devices. So again, really it's a marketing play. We're working with our pilot customer to become one of those partnerships that individuals know that, hey, if I utilize this service, then I'm going to be able to have the ability to be convenienced by receiving coupons and discounts. So that's where we're actually moving into somewhat of a crowdfunding for advertisement. So with us being able to work with these advertisers and say, all right, if Victoria's Secret is thinking about running a special, if we can have our customer base rank these advertisements based off of their willingness to use them, that may give Victoria's Secret the ability to know how effective their campaign is. So before they roll out, a semi-annual sale that may not get the return that they anticipate, what we can do is essentially create somewhat of a crowdfunding base for these advertisers to know what may work. And on top of that, we'll offer the normal discounts, the normal coupons, the normal specials. But the incentive for the advertiser is to know how many people are interested in that ad. And this platform gives us the ability to be able to do that.
Excellent. Definitely wish you much luck with with nomadic technologies. Definitely sound like something to look out for. I kind of want to switch gears because I know you're part of another venture. So I want you to give us the rundown on Bartender and tell us what it is and tell us why you decided to enter this. I'm not going to tell people. I'll let you explain what it is and tell us why you decided to enter into that space.
Yeah, indeed. Well, Bartender just pretty much came from Startup 101, just recognizing a problem. I was experiencing several pain points with the beverage industry. I validated this assumption with several of my colleagues. Basically when you go out for drinks, one of the most inconvenient aspects to that process is when you show up and you try to purchase a beverage, you are posed with that question, are you going to start a tab? You have to hand over your debit or credit card. If it's more than one person, you got to decide who's going to be the one to, provide that card. So it really just became a situation that, I felt like, hey, there's got to be a more efficient way to create this exchange. So Bartender, the idea and the concept came about as a mobile application for the beverage industry.
Okay, sorry about that. I kind of lost connection there. So we missed just the last couple of sentences. You said it was you were trying to solve this problem for people handing over debit cards, and then continue from there.
Right. Well, Bartender started, from a user perspective, obviously me as a consumer at the bar or restaurant, figuring out a way to make, the payment process more convenient for patrons at these establishments. So Bartender, the high concept pitch is pretty much a mobile application that allows consumers to link their debit or credit card to a barcode or RFID tag on your smart device, so that when you show up to an establishment, you can scan that and it integrates directly to the point of sale system so that you can order drinks and have them tabulated directly on your smart device. If you decided to leave, if you're in a hurry, if you want to close out your tab, you don't have to wait, to receive your check. You can close out right on your device. So I spoke with several individuals in the bar and restaurant industry, and a major problem they were having with that process was individuals walking out on tabs. Obviously, they spend about $170 million a year, not only on unpaid tabs, but ordering receipt paper, which, if you go to a bar and get a drink, man, they give you 3-4 receipts. You get 2, one for them, one for you. You get the actual receipt, the itemized receipt. So, and I just felt like, man, there was a better way to help convenience them. So I spoke to a couple companies that were in the point of sale system space, and they create platforms that are easy for integration. You're able to build applications on top of the platform. So I actually met with a group here that has a background in finance and payments, and what these credit card companies are doing to the beverage industry, especially bars. They put a 4 to 5% margin on processing credit card payments. And with our software, we're creating proprietary technology that will allow us to process those payments at, a much cheaper rate. So essentially what we do is create a network effect where these bars can start advertising within the app, even creating a heat map. If we know where individuals are congregating at specific times, that data, again, becomes valuable to these bars. So I was able to do a market size analysis, and we decided that, we were just going to go after a very small market, which was the beverage, not specifically restaurant, but, any bar in itself that just serve drinks. And that's where we created, a foothold and found ways to expand. So we saw a huge opportunity in creating that network effect. So if other individuals have it, then we can start working on ways to, convenience the patron, provide coupons. This is, I guess, me breaking news, but, I'm actually in discussion with a couple of some, pretty well-known transportation companies that are looking to partner with us for, obvious reasons. Anybody out having drinks, you want to be able to, allow them to do that responsibly. So we're trying to find ways to make sure they get to their destination safely. So, it's all in the works. I mean, Bartender has been, in conception for probably the last couple months or so, and I've seen a lot of traction with it. So very excited about that. And, Nomadic is really a longer sales process. The technology obviously has to inform the business model. So what we're doing with Bartender is putting an application together that we feel like can, capture a large market share pretty quickly. That way we can start generating revenue and then, scale from there.
I like the way you think, man. You're taking this entrepreneur thing and you're really doing it. You're out there, you're identifying problems, and not only identifying the problems, but you're coming with the solutions as well. So it's really good to hear, an intelligent young brother like yourself, man, just out there really trying to make moves, trying to make things happen in this, in the technology space, and you're not letting anything hold you back, anything prohibit you from making your mark in the entrepreneurial space. So I definitely commend you for what you're doing. And it sounds like both technologies sound like they're some things that people would need and would use in our society right now. And definitely the bill pay thing. I was just recently out with my wife with a couple of friends who were in from town, and that's one of the things you pass your credit card, and the other part of that is leaving your credit card on accident, right?
Yeah, man. Yeah. Everybody's got a story.
Right. So something like that, man, would definitely I would definitely use use an app like that to start paying my bills at bars and things like that. And yeah, you're right. It'll be a lot better if you didn't have to get who wants to. Here's the thing. You're at a bar. You give them your credit card. You go to cash out. So they hand you your receipt. The bar is crowded, right? So now you got to reach through people to sign your bar tab in order to pay for it. And today's age, the advent of technology and where we're at with mobile phones and everything, that sounds silly that they're still in that stuck in that era. So it's great to hear that that a young brother is working on alleviating these problems that we have with paying our bar tabs, man. So I wish you the best of luck with that, man.
I appreciate it.
So what's next for you? What are you going to be doing next?
Well, I'm actually considering taking the accelerator route again. I've been pursued by a couple programs that are out there, and a few that are in the ad tech space, and a few that are in the food and beverage space. So, I really feel like me furthering the business model, potentially having the ability to receive seed funding is extremely important. And I'm a huge advocate of the accelerator route, because not only does it expose you to information and curriculum that you may not otherwise have access to, but beyond that, you get the ability to go in front of investors. And, I mean, as difficult as it is already to seek investors and get in front of them, taking the accelerator route pretty much pulls together individuals who know that top talent is coming from these programs, and you get them in one room and you get to pitch to them all. I think you got the greater opportunity for success by taking that route. So, you know, in the short term, what I'm doing, Greg, is, you know, just continuing to work my network, you know, reach out to individuals that I'm closest to. One thing that I realized is that the more you act like you need money and the more you ask for money, the, you know, less you'll get. So I'm going to make these ventures happen regardless of, you know, angel funding, you know, VC funding. I'm looking to bootstrap and, you know, pretty much put these ventures together on my own, you know, of course, with the help of friends and family. But, yeah, I think you alluded to it. I'm not going to let anything stop me or prevent me from, you know, going out and getting these things done. Most of these ideas are speed to market, so, you know, obviously having some investment will help. And I think the accelerator route really allows me to get to that end result a lot quicker. So that's what, you know, I'm going to be doing here in the short term. I'm still informing myself and educating myself about, you know, ad technology, staying very close to that. Even picked up some opportunities working with some point-of-sale systems, so, you know, we can further figure out how to integrate into that space. So, you know, just educating myself is really what I'm doing, and, you know, just trying to keep it going.
Excellent, excellent. And some parting words to the people who are listening. What's some advice you would give to up and coming entrepreneurs in our community?
Well, again, Greg, I commend you for what you're doing, allowing me to have this platform. You know, very humbled by it, and a philosophy that I've adopted in my short tenure as an entrepreneur is that, you know, if you're starting a company, if you're thinking about becoming a founder, always aim for a monopoly. And, you know, what that should look like is avoiding competition. So, you know, of course, I've seen too many people from our culture, you know, people of color, for instance, go for industries that are very well competed in, and you see too few individuals seek to start a monopoly, you know, and obviously a monopoly is illegal, but you don't have to shy away from that mentality. So when I say monopoly, the basic principle of, you know, starting a company for me is to figure out where you can create value. So with both ideas, I found where I could create value, and the formula for creating value is pretty much, you know, providing two things. So, you know, you have to create a company that has X amount of dollars in value for the world. You know, no matter how large or how small that is, you know, you have to build something that creates, you know, X amount of value. And your job as a founder is to figure out how to capture Y% of X. And the thing that I think is important to mention is that X and Y are two completely independent variables. So, you know, to create value for your company, you know, you have to create that value and capture it. So, you know, a very brief example is if you look at the airline industry and if you look at Google, you know, these have been two business models that have helped me to understand the markets that I've been working in. You know, the airline, obviously, a very huge market. They generate, some 190-something plus $1 billion in revenue a year, but they only capture like 0.2% of that revenue. I think the average airline makes 37 cents per passenger a flight. But you see Google, a company that obviously captures a lot less, you know, they've pretty much generated $50 billion in revenue last year, but they captured 21% of that. So, you know, Google in itself was actually more profitable than the airlines, and this is statistics from last year, because they were able to capture more value. So the reason why I'm starting small, you know, starting with these, you know, markets that people feel like are so small that they're irrelevant, like, you know, who would think to focus on the beverage industry in itself, you know, out-of-home advertising. For most people, those markets are so small that they feel like there's really no value. But even if I capture a very small percentage of that, I've created some sort of a monopoly that I can control, you know, and from there, man, I could end up, you know, becoming very profitable.
Well, man, I tell you what, you're definitely inspiring. those are that's definitely some great advice that people who are listening could put into play immediately and start, really thinking about, how am I going to be successful? Am I going to go into something that's oversaturated, or how about I think about something a little bit less competitive that I could hold a small market share, but still create a great profit by doing that. So definitely glad that you spoke on that. And before we get out of here, how can people get in contact with you? How can people follow you? Give us your URLs to your businesses and social media handles, things like that.
Right. Well, my website is a pretty lengthy one. It's Terrell, Terrell Holding, HOLDING, and A&D entities.com. Email is brandon@terrellholding and entities.com. My social media, Twitter, Instagram are the same, @brand, that's BRAND, Terrell, TERRELL, so that's @brand-terrell. And that's pretty much where I'm at. My email, like I mentioned, is a good place to reach me. I think you've done a good job at, circulating my information throughout, the social space, so I appreciate that.
Definitely.
And, feel free to reach out.
Great. Again, I want to thank you for joining us here tonight and taking time out of your evening to talk about what you have going on, talk about your businesses, talk about your ventures. Definitely wish you the best of luck. I definitely will be keeping in contact with you, and if you have anything coming up on the horizon, feel free to shoot me an email, and we'll definitely try to help you out with promoting that, man.
All right, absolutely. Hey, thanks again, Greg. Take care, man.
All right, take care. So that's it for this episode of the Blacks in Technology Big Tech Talk podcast. We want to thank all of our listeners for tuning in. I want to thank our guest, Brandon-Terrell, from CEO, founder of Nomadic-Technologies, and bartender. And if you like what you heard tonight and you want to let us know, if you have any suggestions or comments, email them to us at contact us at blackstechnology.net. Join us in 2 weeks from now. So 2 weeks is going to be, I think, the 16th, for another exciting episode of the Blacks in Technology Big Tech Talk podcast. We will be joined by Lisa Kaywood. She is the Senior Product Marketing Manager with Brocade Communication System, and she is going to talk to us about software-defined networks. So tune in 2 weeks, and remember, tech yourself before you wreck yourself. Take care, and have a good night.
Blacks in Technology.
Blacks in Technology. Blacks in Technology. Blacks in Technology. Blacks in Technology. Blacks in Technology.